KILR Killer Game.
Hello, gamers, simmers, and pilots. I am the Killer Gamer, and welcome back to the Chicago tour featuring number one. Number one, make it so. Microsoft Flight Simulator, the 1982 version. Well, look at this. The sun is starting to come up. It's bright. It's getting brighter. Why? Because we're going back where we started. Let's talk about that. So, here is the Flight Simulator 1 map. For those of you that are very familiar with the Flight Simulator 2 map, you may notice that there's a lot of airports missing. That's because there is only 5 in the Chicago area. All those other little airports, like the one that was here, the one at Bloomington, the one at Joliet, and over, yeah, it's not here. It's just 5. So we are flying from Willard, Champaign, and we are going to be landing here at Greater Kankakee to refuel, and then we'll be heading up to Chicago. So first things first, we'll tune into Roberts, and then from there we'll go to Kankakee. Now the weird thing is that this frequency does absolutely nothing. It doesn't do anything here or in Flight Simulator 2 or 3 or 4. This this frequency does absolutely nothing. I don't even know why it's here, but it does nothing. And yeah, this has Kankakee, unlike Sierra Pro Pilot, which does not, which has Sublogic's name on the back. Go figure. I don't get that one. But yeah, so that's where we're going. We're going to use the Roberts VOR, so that way we can tune into it, and then we'll use Payatone to tune into that, and that'll get us in the right direction for Greater Kankakee, and then we'll land there and refuel. And the great thing is that you'll be able to see the sun come up, kind of. All right, so let's go ahead and get the nav tuned in. 116.8 is Roberts. So nav radio is right here. You have to hit the N key and then plus minus to do the whole numbers. And then NN gets you the decimals, and then plus or minus. And there we go. Now to change this, you use the V key and plus or minus. That's our heading, 008. And then the magnetos. So mags are currently off. Basically the M key, 1 through 5, is like turning the key. M1 is off, M2 left, M3R, M4 both, M5 ST for start. And then we are on our way. Yeah, can you think about how exciting it was that we had nothing but pitch black, and then finally we're like getting close to running out of fuel, and then Champaign appears. The Champaign airport. That was kind of satisfying. Alright, let's get moving here. Okay, let's take a look at the map here. Let's see where exactly we are. Okay. This runway here, if we take this runway, it's going to take us north. Or pretty much, no, wait a minute. So this one here actually will. Alright, so let's make a left and around that way. Yeah. It's hard to determine 3D space, so you have to kind of rely on the map here to be able to see where you're going. So you kind of look at this and you're like, where the heck is everything? Because out in the distance, everything is squished flat into a line. And it's kind of hard to see. And during the daytime, it's hard to see. It's hard to figure out which ones are the taxiways because they're all lines at that point. You know, at least at night, you know, the taxiways are dotted blue. Okay, is this the right one? Nope. Not that one. This one. We want to go down this one here. See, I'm teaching you tips and tricks on how to fly an ancient simulator. We got about 16 minutes and it will be full daytime. That was another thing that got me kind of excited when I was playing, when I first played on the Commodore 64. That was my first flight simulation. Is flying at night and then watch as the colors changed. That signified, you know, the sun was coming up. That's 31. That's off to an angle there. Flight Simulator DE. Welcome to Flight Simulator 1. Welcome to the KILR Gamer channel. It is nice to have you. Good timing. We are just now taking off. Yes, this is numero uno. This is the very first one. You'll notice it only has one nav radio and one OBS. Flight Simulator 2 had two nav radios. Alright, we are up. Landing gear up. We can look behind us. And we can wave goodbye to Champaign-Willard. We are on the way to Kankakee. Because we gotta get some fuel. Yeah, you are seeing Flight Simulator 1 the way it's supposed to look. If you look on YouTube for anyone that's done a Flight Simulator 1 video, the graphics are going to be whacked. The lines and everything are all over the place. So you can see that it's not doing that here. That's because I had to find an actual emulator, something that emulates an actual IBM PC, not just DOS. I was lucky when I stumbled upon this and then found out that Flight Simulator 1 works and displays exactly like it should. We're going to level off here around 3,000. Try to center us onto the Vor there so that way we can get the Roberts. Yeah, Sublogic Flight Simulator 1 was the absolute first one. This was just the first Microsoft one. So they consider this the second generation of flight simulators. I have messed around with Sublogic Flight Simulator 1. I haven't done a video on it yet, though. Sublogic Flight Simulator 1 is probably good for just one video, just based off of what I did. Because really, it was just, what, like one airport and some lines that intersected with each other. It looked like the most I could really do was take off from the airport, kind of fly around, and then land. And that in itself was a bit challenging. I mean, if you think trying to line up with runways and stuff here is hard, it was even harder there because the pixels, the lines were thicker. The lines are the pixels are thicker than they are here. But it is worthy of one video. At least one. Maybe I'll call that one Killer Gamers Around the Block Tour. It's not a world tour, it's not a Chicago tour, it's just around the block tour. And Flight Simulator DE, I also do other classic flight sims on the channel. So if you've ever wanted to see Flight Sim 4 or 98 or 2000 or X-Plane 5, 6. Those are just examples. I have pretty much all of them. Then you're following the right channel, because I do those. And I also do the modern simulators as well, so it's not just old stuff here. There's Champagne. Just a few lines and dots, dashes, as we make our way back to Chicago. You are welcome. I enjoy flying the old FlightSims. Not only have I been able to relive some old memories that I had, but I've been able to make new memories as well. So like this one, Flight Sim 1, I never played it when it first came out. My first flight simulator was for the Commodore 64. I remember seeing pictures of the PC simulator, and I saw the colors, and I wish the Commodore 64 had the colors. The colors on the dash, I mean. Instead, it's just like gray and black or something. But yeah, no, I didn't get a PC until Flight Sim 5, which was the reason why I got a PC. Because I went from the Commodore 64 to the Amiga, both of which, as you probably already know, that I've done videos and streams on. And then Flight Sim 5 came out, and when I saw how it had textured ground on it, I'm like, oh, I got to be able to play this. And there was a PC emulator for the Amiga. Let me tell you, using a Motorola 68000 chip, I think it was a 68040, I think is what I had, a 68020 or 40 or something like that. Having it trying to emulate an Intel processor is like, yeah, not really a thing. Through software emulation, I was able to get Windows 3.1 to load up, and it was like a slideshow. And I did manage to get Flight Simulator 5 working on the software emulator, and it was just it was like I started moving, and it was like one frame, then another frame, and it was like slowly drawing it down the screen. It looked awesome, but it was so slow, and I'm like, all right, I got to get myself a PC. And so the first PC I bought was a Packard Bell. A Packard Bell Pentium 90. I had a choice between getting a Pentium 60 or a Pentium 90. I went with the Pentium 90. Someone's calling me. No, it's a scam. Hang up. And I used it to be able to play Flight Sim 5. I think it was the first computer. I also messed around with the MAME emulator, the MAME arcade emulator. But it was the last PC that I would ever buy, because after that I built my own. And the first PC that I built, I still have that motherboard, and I'm actually going to be using it to rebuild a very similar system than what I had before. And I'll be using that for Windows or DOS and Windows 3.1 stuff. It'll work for Windows 95 and 98 also, but I think it's going to be too slow for what I want on those. But I have another motherboard which will be faster. That'll work much better for 95, 98 programs. Three and a half minutes and it will be daytime. Champagne is all but a memory now. Way back there, somewhere. We're cruising at about 120 knots. We are heading to the Roberts VOR, which is halfway between Champaign and Kankakee. Now here's a question I gotta ask you. If you're from the Chicago area, then I'm sure you know how to pronounce Kankakee. But for those who were not from Chicago, did you know that it was pronounced as Kankakee, or did you call it Kankakee? Did you pronounce it as Kankakee? I pronounced it as Kankakee for a long time, and then when I was doing a documentary of the area, it was for my X-Plane 11 video. I wanted to make sure that I was pronouncing it correctly, so I looked up news footage and stuff like that from that area, and I heard them pronounce it Kankakee, and that's when I'm like, oh, that's how you say the word. That's how you say the name of the city. Would it be cheap nowadays? It's not going to be too bad. Where it's going to get expensive is, for example, if I try to get a Voodoo 2 card, or like some of the sound cards, not Sound Blaster, not Audigy, but there's like another one out there, and some of those are quite pricey. But as a basic machine, and I still have my graphic cards. So the graphics card that I had for my first PC was a Creative 3D Blaster TNT 2, a Riva TNT 2. Which, from old reviews that I've read, was performed better than a Voodoo 2 card. I think, though, that I want to get an actual Voodoo card, because I've been doing research on the Voodoo cards, and the old games that are based on Glide, the most compatible card is the original Voodoo card. It's daytime! Like Voodoo 2 and Voodoo 3 work for, most everything, but apparently Voodoo, the first Voodoo card, is the best compatible one with Glide games. Kankakee, Kalamazoo, which I've done both. Kalamazoo, Yeah, we recently went there on the Commodore Amiga, because I had some catching up to do on that series. But Flight Simulator 3 has gone there, and Commodore 64 has already gone there, and I think that video is up on the channel, up on the KILR TV channel. If not, it will soon. The other one, though, KIKK, nope, haven't been there. So here's another one of those rewarding things about the old simulator. You see absolutely nothing in front of you, right? But we're using the VOR navigation to get us to Kankakee. But when we get there, we'll see the airport, and I believe the Kankakee River will also be there. Oh, okay, so this just moved. It says from. That means we just passed Roberts. That's the midway point. So now we're going to tune in to Payotone, which is 113.2. That's beyond Kankakee. But that, if we tune that in, that's going to get us in the general direction. One 113.2. That's our direction, 022. Up, that's Kankakee right there. It's at a distance, but that's it. That little white smudge out there. And we can probably tune into the control tower too. There is Greater Kankakee Airport information. Mike. New Skies. Hey there, New Skies. How are you? I'm doing good. Welcome. Good to have you on board the flight. We left Champaign, Willard not too long ago. We're on our way back to Chicago, but we're going to be making a stop here at Kankakee to refuel the tanks. And then we'll be heading back up to Chicago and landing at Meigs Airport. And this is all footage that I am recording for the Killer Gamers Chicago tour for Microsoft Flight Simulator 1. And after today, the tour will be complete for Chicago. We will have flown to each airport and to each VOR on the map. So we will have gotten everything that there is to have gotten off of the Chicago map. And then we go to another map. I'm actually thinking of the next tour being New York. So we'll have the New York tour, and we'll go through each of those VORs and the 5 airports that are on that map. You're on your way to Auckland on an A350. Yeah, so that little white line up there, that's Kankakee up there. There's no DME on the dash, so there's no way to know how far away we are. We can sort of get an idea. If I tune into the Pontiac, here. Let's do some cross-reference VOR navigation here. We're going to tune into the Pontiac VOR, which is 109.6. Now, let's center that VOR, but have it on the from. Okay, so basically a heading of 100. Now, here's the Flight Simulator 1 map. Here's Pontiac. It was about a heading of 100, so we're probably right about there, I'm thinking. If everything on this map is accurate, we're right about here. So really, to get close to Kankakee, like right around here, it would be a heading of 070 from Pontiac, or maybe 080. Yeah, 070 is a little too close. Maybe 075. So when we get to 075 on the from Pontiac, that'll give us an idea of how close we are to Greater Kankakee. Kind of cool how that works, isn't it? Okay, so we'll set it to 076. So we may not have a DME, but we do have this needle right here. So as this needle starts getting closer and closer to the center, then we'll know that we're getting closer and closer to the airport. I think, if anything, with the first flight simulator, I mean, it's obviously more IFR than VFR, but I think if people were looking for, you know, a good IFR challenge, you know, they probably, you know, played this quite a bit. That's just the engine making weird sounds. How do I navigate with limited references? Use the instruments. That's really the only way. So, for example, the nav radio. I tuned into the Pontiac VOR, and basically this heading away from the Pontiac VOR is roughly where the airport's going to be at. And this needle just moved. So as this needle starts getting closer and closer to the center, That's how close we are to the airport. As far as everything else, yeah, there's no texture on the ground, so how do we know how high up we are? The elevation is 625 at Greater Kankakee. So we have to keep that in mind with our altimeter here. So when we get close to touching down, we want to be somewhere below 1,000, so we're not too high up. But we are getting close here, so let's drop some flaps. We'll drop the landing gear. It says up here, your gear is right here. So just click G for down. Stop going! Someone's calling me. No! No! I'm working. I'm working! So you can see that we're getting closer to the airport, and you can see where the line is at. So yeah, I mean, we may not have something specific that tells us how many miles away we are, but we can at least get a general idea. 2004 FS9. Yes. I have a lot of fond memories of FS9. FS98 and FS9 were probably the two biggest ones that I think had an impact on me. FS98 was just incredible because with the add-ons, the fact that I could fly around the world, and then FS9 was just gorgeous looking. It was like the simulator I had been waiting for my whole life. Of course, I had no idea Flight Sim 2020 would look the way it does. Gotta be careful, we might stall here in a moment. Yep, same thing here as well. I've got an i7 machine that I'm working on. I have a new graphics card and everything. Yep, I've got P3D and X-Plane as well. And I've flown online on VATSIM. With FSX and P3D, I tried on X-Plane. The frame rate was not high enough, so I kept getting booted off. Hopefully, though, with the new system, the new old system, my i7 has been in a repair process for like a couple of years. I had to replace the processor, but yeah, when I get that back up and running, I probably will be able to fly X-Plane on VATSIM. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with frames once I'm done. Alright, the needle is centered. So we should be getting close to landing here, I think. One way to check is the map. There it is. And you can see, alright, we need to move to the left. There's a runway. I think I just landed. Hold on, let's try to get up in the air here. Yeah, we did land. Because the altimeter had changed. That's okay. We're doing a touch and go out in the grass. Yeah, I still haven't tried the Vulcan yet. How are we doing on the map here? Okay. I think I can make out the runway. You know what? I don't see the Kankakee River. They must have not added that until Flight Simulator 2. Because it is there in Flight Simulator 2. I just assumed it would be here as well. I just didn't think we would see it at night when we first flew here. Maybe not. One of these is a runway and one of them's a taxiway. Which one is it? I don't know. We're a little too high though. I think the line on the left is the runway. And I think the one on the right is a taxiway. See, it's hard in the daytime to figure out which one is which. At night, the taxiways are blue. But it's hard to tell that here. Oh, this one's got a center line on it, so that's a good telling point right there. Runway 4. For a moment, I thought we were going to crash. Because I have crashed just that close to the runway when it stalls. But we didn't. We're good. Okay, there is a taxiway or something over here. Now you look at this and you're like, how do I know where I'm going? Map. Okay, so got it. We'll take this all the way down. We'll hang a right over here. Get ourselves to the fuel box. Refuel. And then we're heading to RPSimz, which will end the Chicago tour. So it will be a momentous occasion, and you all will be a part of it. You'll be part of the final flight of the Chicago tour. And then the next time that we play Flight Simulator 1, we will be flying in New York. Take a look at the map again here. Okay, I think that's the fuel box. Yep. Right over here in this general direction. That should be it right there ahead of us. There we are. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end it right here since we have to get the fuel, since we have to get the fuel in order to refuel the plane. Yes, the plane needs to get refueled. So we'll go ahead and let that happen, but we'll go ahead and close things off here. I want to thank you for joining me on this flight. I hope you're liking it and enjoying it. If so, click that like button and share and comment. It's all important. Helps the channel out and helps out the series. That way it gets out there and people's recommended feeds and stuff. Hey, they may not even know that there's a series like this out there. So help each other out. And while you're here, why not subscribe? It doesn't cost anything. It's free. It doesn't hurt. And actually, you might feel pretty good by clicking that subscribe button and that notification bell, because you get notified of future flight simulation content. That's why you're here, isn't it? Flight Simulator? Yeah. So of course, go and subscribe. You'll be glad that you did. And another thing that you might enjoy is heading over to Twitch and giving me a follow over there, so that way you can be a part of these live streams. When I record episodes, I tend to live stream them, so that way it gives you all a chance to be a part of the show and see it weeks and months ahead of time. Now, I don't live stream everything, but I do a good portion, so head on over there. I'd love to meet you. And then Instagram for pictures and photos of projects that I'm working on behind the scenes. Twitter for KILR official news and announcements, retweets of things that I think you might find interesting. Snapchat for photos and pictures and news for things that I think you might find it. No, just kidding. It's just silly fun whenever I feel like doing something with it. And then Patreon for those who would like to support me and what it is that I'm doing, investing into the channel. I greatly appreciate anything that you're willing to do, and there are bonuses and rewards just waiting for you. So please go check that out. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you on the next leg of our journey. It's an important one, so be there. Have a killer awesome day.